the deep. Thanks, Hunter.
Thank you, Kim. Oh, look at all the lovely faces.
Wow.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Hunter J. McNair. If you do not know who I am a proud, successful team owner here in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. I run an out and proud real estate team for the last 9 years. Many of you may know me as a Keller Williams University approved trainer, and some of you may know me most proudly as one of the leaders of the Keller Williams Rainbow Network. I am so honored today to be moderating a panel discussion with two of my best friends, or as we call in our community, my good Judies, a conversation around earning with pride. So what's going to happen today is all three of us are actually going to share a little bit of our stories, where we grew up, what that was like for us growing up as people within the LGBTQ plus community. And then I'm going to ask them some questions so that you all can learn a little bit of a perspective about the LGBTQ plus community, as well as what we've experienced in those years that we've been in business. Fortunately, I have Mike Zinicola with us and Kim Davis. Mike has actually shared on my podcast, Queer and Successful, some of his story with me. And Kim, you have not signed up yet, so I'm waiting for you to be on it with me. Come on, girl. And Mike, let's start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Okay. My name is Mike Zinicola, and I run the Easy Referral Network, which is one of the top 10 teams in the company. They told us to tell you our stats. So last year we did 1,035 units, residential units for 283 million. We also did another 50 million in commercial on the side. Real Trends rankings just came out, and we are 17th in the country in units of all brokerages. So we're very excited that that was the best we ever did. So we moved up from 24 to 17 this year. So we're very excited. So my expansion team is the hub is out of Cleveland, Ohio, and we have 8 offices around Ohio and Pittsburgh. And I started this team with Greg Erlinger, my business partner. And the way we got together is we were at family reunion in 2008, and we went to a breakout session, and Russell Rhodes was teaching the session. And he said, don't think you're going to get better as your weaknesses. If you have weaknesses, hire or partner up with them. Greg and I couldn't be two different realtors. And so we realized that we both had certain strengths that the other could use. And so we put our talents together, and we created an unfair advantage in the marketplace. And I've enjoyed the success of the team for the last 16 years. And so that's my business. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and I think I'm probably the oldest person on this video. So I really grew up. I went to high school in the 70s, and in the 70s, the world was a different place. So when I was a teenager, starting when I was 13, every night I said a decade of the rosary, and I prayed to God for someone to change me. And I tried to pray away the gay. And you know what happened at 21, at 22, after I did that for 9 years, I met my first partner, who dragged me out of the closet. And the rest is history on that. I went to Bowling Green undergrad. I went to Ohio State Law School. I practiced law afterwards in Columbus. When I was in Columbus in the 80s, I was the out gay attorney for Columbus. I did a lot of estate planning. I did a lot of handling drunk drivers outside the gay bars. I handled a lot of other things that were community related. And because there wasn't marriage at the time, there were no divorce courts, I sat on a panel that actually helped people to dissolve their property when they were breaking up. I served on the Ohio Department of Health's Advisory Committee on AIDS in 1984, and I helped start the Columbus AIDS Task Force. I practiced law for 17 years. And in the late 90s, I looked myself in the mirror and said, you know, Mike, you're a sufficient attorney. Now, my goal for everyone on this podcast is that you don't choose to settle for sufficient. And I got involved in real estate. And from real estate, my first year in the business, I was able to sell $5 million of real estate in the year 2000, which would be the equivalent of about 14 million. And I knew I made the right choice, and the rest is history.
Not only is the rest history, Mike, you are not only 17 across the entire country, you said, but you're also the #1 LGBTQ plus team in the country as well.
Yes. Yes. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, so that's
little things.
those little things. I one of my proudest accomplishments, though, is last year at the LGBT Realty Alliance, I received the Beacon of Light Award because I was the one who started and founded the LGBT Housing Initiative. And I'm sure we'll talk about that later on. But so that's actually something that's passionate for me and for Kim. Kim's on our board as well. And that's really made a difference in what I do for a living.
Yep, I'm excited to talk about that. Thank you so much, Mike. Miss Kim, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your story as well.
Wonderful. I'm Kimberly Davis out of the wonderful state of Texas. I am out of Plano, Texas, right there in the center of downtown Dallas, about 30 minutes north of Dallas. I have been practicing real estate now this is my 24th year, and we have to report our numbers. We've done about $550 million in sales, and we've done over 3,500 units as far as last year's numbers. When I think about myself, I was an independent agent up until 2011, actually. And in 2011, there was a huge obstacle in my life because I had a brain finding, it's called a Chiari malformation that was found on my skull, right? There. And so I ended up having to have this emergency surgery, and they had to go in my spinal cord. And so it was an incidental finding, and I ended up having to have a plate put in my neck. And I remember then at that time thinking, oh my God, my career is over, because they talked about, hey, you're not going to be able to have feelings here, feelings there, and this is the risk you take. And I thought at that time that my life needed to really change, because that year of 2010, I did 91 transactions as an individual agent by myself. So it was a real, as I say, come to Jesus, but it was a real eye-opening experience for me to think about how my life was really a challenge. And then at that moment, I decided that I am so selfish. I'm focusing on myself, and I'm not able to pour into others and be able to teach others and coach others. And at that moment, I decided that it was time for me to transition into thinking bigger and thinking about growing something bigger than myself, right? So I then decided to have a team that following year in 2011. So in 2011 is when I finally opened up the Kimberly Davis Group and started thinking about how am I going to pour into people and who do I want to be, and focusing on leadership and changing leadership and pouring into others. So we've had a team now since 2011, and it's been a very challenging experience. And it brings me to this. Pride is the enemy of self-improvement, and you must value self-improvement over self-promotion. So every year I think about that quote I've heard from one of the my favorite authors, and it is so true in that I'm constantly thinking about my team members, and being able to think about them makes me focus on my own skill set. So everybody's like, you don't really talk about yourself. You don't talk about yourself. We were just talking about that last week. And I believe it is because I'm constantly always working on me, right? And focusing on the who, the who, the who. Do I want to be this person that's philanthropic? The who. Do I want to be this real estate investor? The who. Do I want to be this coach that's thinking about other people's businesses and growing their businesses to the level of, their largest imagination, right? The who. So it's constantly always changing and always having improvement. So we've been able to see our empire grow into now my partner of life. We've been together for over 24 years as well. So she's been with me since I walked into the business of real estate. And Cindy runs all of our property management. So we own over like 20 houses that we have as rentals. And then we have apartment complexes that actually are in South Carolina and Atlanta, Georgia, that we're also involved in. And that's her one thing. She just focuses on that. And then we also have a roofing and construction company here in Dallas, Texas as well. And that's another baby that Cindy, my partner, also operates as well. So my biggest pride and joy out of all things is my big boy, Tristan. So Tristan, we have Tristan, who is Tristan is 13 years of age. He turned 13 May 24th, and he is our everything. And as he states, this is his real estate company. He says he's going to partner with our director of operations one day, and he's going to work with her to grow an empire through the NFL. So he feels like real estate is going to be his destination after he plays pro ball. So he loves being a athletic kiddo. But overall, that's what we look like. So my world is all about community. Community connection creates freedom. And so I've been able to have community here that's created the freedom because I was able to pour into clientele. I've been able to pour into the Keller Williams Rainbow Network Mastermind Group with a couple partners, Brad Davis and Matthew Butka. We've been able to focus on, sharing, so community. And it's so funny to see how community opens up opportunities for all. And that is part of my core values, is really understanding community and connection. And so to see how it's unfolded in so many different directions because of the mindset that I get to work on a daily basis to create wealth building in so many facets that gives us the freedom to be able to have a voice that makes an impact in people's lives on a daily basis. So I could talk about selling real estate, but I really talk about just really community and freedom, because freedom is what moves me to be able to have the ability to be present and to be able to make an impact for all of us, to be able to make big decisions for our lives. And I love doing that and being a part of that in the Rainbow Network community here with Keller Williams. So I take pride and joy of that. So I hope that is enough about Kelly Davis.
Yeah, well, trust me, we're gonna dig more into both.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let you go easy, girl. And Kim and I have had the ability to be fortunate enough to be leaders of the Keller Williams Rainbow Network, to have been in the rooms at both Family Reunion and Mega Camp for masterminds. Mike actually came up with the idea for the LGBT housing initiative in one of our Rainbow Masterminds in the basement of the LGBT Center of New Orleans, which was where we had to be at the time. And we've come a long way from that, y'all. Quite a long way from that. And Kim, you touched on something about really loving community. I want to know, because for me, when I started my real estate business 9 years ago in 2015, I always knew that I was going to run an out and proud real estate team. So my question for both of you, really, and I'll start with you, Kim, is when would you say that you actually came out in your business?
Georgia Alpazar. Gosh, I got my license in 2000, and Georgia came to me after doing I think my first year I did like 16 transactions. And the second year, she's like, I just want you to know that I feel like you're just so private and there is more to you. So what is it about you, and why haven't you just been this person that you are? And I can't put my hands on it. And I was like, what do you think it could be? I don't know. And so I was very private about being gay, right? And so Georgia Alpazar, which is the regional director for Florida and Southern Florida. I just told the truth one day. I was keeping it all in. I come from McKinney, Texas. It's like a country sighting. Okay. It's a country sighting. I should have had my cowboy hat on for that. So it's a major country sighting in McKinney. And my family is made up of, I would say, Southern Baptists. My grandfather was a Southern Baptist Black minister. And so it was a big challenge for me. I lost my family for a big time of my life, a big portion of my life, from college up until my early 20s, right? That I walked away. And so being able to go into real estate, I just thought I could keep everything under the radar and just live my life and just sell real estate and just stay private. So it took Georgia saying, you know what, I feel like it's something about you that if you could just tap into it, your world will explode, because there's something about you that people want to see and be a part of you, and you got to let go of it. So what is it, Kim? What is it? And I'm like, well. So It was that moment. And that was literally in 2002 that I turned on the light bulb. And I said, you know what? I have to be real. I need to be me. And I literally at that point brought Cindy into the office and sat down with Mike Brody and Dick Dillingham, as well as Georgia Alpazar, who influenced that conversation and said, listen, you have the right to talk about this. You're going to be protected in this space, and you're going to be able to have rights that if your wife chooses to get her actual license at that time, then you guys can be one cap. And she says, I'm going to fight for you to make sure that that happens. And so it was that moment. And I sat at the table, and even though Cindy she didn't really know at the time that she wanted to be a licensed agent, but to know that we could be confirmed as one and stand tall to say that we are one cap and we are one family. And we weren't married at the time, obviously, either. So Mike and Dick made the decision to support it. And so at that point, I was like, if I can have these two people from Texas here that are Mike Brody support me, how could I go wrong about being me? How can I not like go back to my family and say, you know what, I'm going to be prideful about being who I am. I'm going to go and share with the clientele. It's not necessary that I go and announce it to the world, but I'm going to walk a little differently at this point in my life. So that walk began at that time, and I didn't turn around. So it was a slow walk, but it was a walk that allowed me to open up doors to live my free life, freedom.
Well, and to give people listening kind of perspective on this, you said 2002. And if you were to go back to 2002, sodomy laws were not struck down across the country until 2003. Marriage equality wasn't passed until 2015. So, while Kim is amazing and is able to say this so seamlessly and how easy this was because of the support you had around you, we know that there was a lot of other factors involved in that at the time that we had to face. Mike, I know you were out in the proud in your attorney world. So what did real estate look like?
Well, there was never a question that I wasn't going to be an out realtor. So, I was on state panels on age-related things when I was an attorney. Everybody knew I was the gay attorney of Columbus, Ohio. So I just proceeded that. When I got my license in 2000, I immediately marketed to our community. I generated a lot of business, but I also always gave back. And that was the key. Yes, I got a lot of business from our community, but I got it because I was always giving back. And I became known in the community. And so it was a combination of me benefiting from the community, but also giving back to the community, which allowed me to benefit from the community even more. So that's always been a part of my life. So when I started this, there was no question about it. I went through all of this in the 70s. And at age 42, when I got my real estate license, I just went and I was who I was. But interesting, can I just add something to that? And I think a lot of people in our community make a mistake in their business to concentrate so much on the community that they don't grow their business enough. There's a whole heck of a lot of people who aren't in our community who buy houses. And when you do that, sometimes you get people that don't have your same values. And I always, whenever I have one of those, I don't fire them as a client. I make the money and then I make a big donation to a community organization with some of their commissions. Because if I fire them, I don't make any commissions. So I love the fact that some of their money goes to
the bigger
causes that I believe in that maybe they don't.
So Mike, over the years, since you've been doing this like that for so long, what have your experiences been when working with the LGBTQ plus community? And how would you say that it has changed over the years?
How it's changed over the years?
Yeah, like what's your experience been and how has it changed?
See, I would argue that it hasn't changed that much. You make yourself available. You're the person who makes people feel comfortable, that they don't have to worry about who they are. And you enjoy the practice of real estate. Because in the end, and I know a lot of people know me on this call, I always say, you want to change your life? go sell another house.
Sell more houses.
And so that's what I do. I go sell another house, and I actually don't treat my community clients differently than my other clients, because isn't it best that we all treat everybody the same?
Well, and I think, yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No,
No,
go
I
ahead.
would say, I think the thing that, that maybe you've done without realizing it too, is that you've surrounded your world with people who are accepting, right? Like vendors and things of that nature. And you've done that for so long that for you, it does come second nature to run an inclusive business.
Yes, but to run an inclusive business is to make yourself available to people who really need you.
Period.
And when
Yeah.
you're there, you just do that as well as you can. Once you have a client from our community with you, they get to be themselves. There's no concern. It makes it makes finding a house fun.
Yeah.
And we have a great time. And people have trust in me, and pretty much as I look at the realtors who are on this call, most that I know are excellent realtors. That's what they want from us within the real estate setting. And then outside of the real estate setting, what are you doing to add to the community?
But Mike, don't you agree too, though, that it also has helped you be respected in the community with the real estate agents locally in your area? So when your clients work with you, it's also an easier experience because people respect Mike, and that you've been able to earn the opportunity to being trusted as a professional.
I teach a negotiation course and always ask the people in the class, when do negotiations start? And they'll say, when you first get your client, when you first find the house, when you first write the contract. No. Negotiations start the day you get your license. And the reason why is I want everyone to close their eyes and think about the 5 to 10 agents in your community that if their buyer looks at your house, you hope the buyer hates it because the transaction is going to be too difficult. Everybody on this call has 5 to 10 names, right?
Right.
So don't be those people, because if you're multiple offers, you're going to lose. If you can't close the gap, the other agent isn't going to work as hard with you. And so it's important for your clients that you have the respect of other agents. We're the only industry that relies on its competitors to make a living. If I go look at the BMW 5 Series and I don't like it, that salesperson doesn't drive me over to the Mercedes dealership to show me the C-Class. We do that. And so we have to be great. And the more you're respected in your community, the more successful you are, the more houses you make, and the more ability you have to have an influence in the community, because you have the ability to fund.
Yeah, I think what you're speaking to a lot of is that I think, we as queer people have to work hard for opportunity. And when we make money and we sell more houses, that kind of voice gets to happen naturally, and we get to inspire others around us. So Kim, again, going back to the same kind of question, what have been some of your experiences working with the queer community, and how has it maybe changed over the years?
I think the change is just before everyone would want to move to downtown Dallas to the trendy gay area. And now I find that the buyers are looking for school districts that are accepting, and they are moving to subdivisions in the suburbs very confidently. And that's been the change. And I've been so happy to see that change. And I've made it easier for our clients, is that, again, being respected in the community, focusing on introducing them to the neighbors next door. I mean, so I now am doing things that I never would have done in the past, right? Because of just knowing that we make things easier for them, right? It's a matter of sometimes, just looking at lack of exposure, right? So when people lack exposure and they see that these people are hardworking people, are buying $1 million homes or buying a $200,000 home, meet your neighbor. So I find that is if we can be bold enough for our clientele to make sure that people see that we're prideful in the relationship, here in the burbs, and I'm in, the rural area of North Texas. I've seen a client that was relocated here from Fort Lauderdale about 9 or 10 months ago. And that's exactly what I did for him. He was in such fear in his own way. And he's like, you know what, but I am not going to not let my money work for me because of my mindset. And so he was a client that I was able to get in a cul-de-sac, and I saw a lady in the cul-de-sac, and she seemed to be, minding her own business. And I just thought, you know what, it's so important for us to create connection. So I introduced him and his partner, and she was like, "Oh my God, my son is gay." And so I'm so glad I get to finally have a neighbor. And we were in this rural area. And she said, "That house is going to be wonderful. This client over here, this neighbor does this for a living, and they're going to be comfortable. Everybody, we just accept each other because no one's from Texas here." And so it's so funny just to see that. But he was just in awe, and he was so excited, and his partner was so afraid and just letting fear get the best of him. And I was like, I refuse to be a part of this. We're going to make sure that everybody's comfortable, and we're going to make this happen. And sure enough, he loves his neighborhood. I talk to them all the time, and they are very settled in their community. So the change is they're no longer just having to go to downtown Dallas to be in the limelight of the gay party in downtown city to buy a home to feel comfortable. And that to me is what is very prideful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
Yeah.
interesting, different communities. My partner Dave and I have been together for 27 years. One of our first houses, we moved into the suburb that everyone was really nice to us, but we knew at other cocktail parties, they talked about the two gay guys with the great landscaping. Everyone was polite. There was no fear. There was no nothing, but we were the two gay guys across the street that had good landscaping.
That's right. Win with the landscaping award. Yeah.
You hired a lesbian.
We moved to what was considered a more conservative city because we wanted to be on the water, etc. And what we found in that neighborhood is Mike and David was no different than Bill and Susan. That was no different than Tony and Dawn. And it was such a more wonderful neighborhood. Because we were just the other couple who had good landscaping, just for the record. But we were just the other couple. And so you're right. Finding neighborhoods where people are going to just be accepting, whether it's the neighborhood or not, is important. And you really do need to know those areas as you're selling houses. And it's not always pushing them into the neighborhood. You're right.
Well, and it has completely changed over the years. I mean, you all have been living authentic lives for a very long time. And yet when we look at the statistics of people who are comfortable enough self-identifying as part of our community, we're finding that it's like around 16% for millennials, and it's actually 28% for Generation Z, the next generation coming up. And of that 28%, 14% are identifying as bisexual. So, we always say we're here, we're queer, get used to it. We also say we're here, we're queer, and we've always been here. And it's one of those things where slowly but surely our presence is finally getting known, and we're changing hearts the better our landscaping gets. Right? That's a joke. Our landscape has always been great.
I want to give people a sense of confidence that they can not have to live in this fear. We all went through it. Mine was in the 70s, yours was later, or whatever. But once you overcome that, your whole life becomes better. I don't care who knows. I just don't care. And if someone cared, I would just laugh in their face.
Yeah.
Who cares if there's a bigot out there who was worried about it?
Well, and I think it's still, it is very important for us to obviously call out that there are a lot of states that do not have protections in housing for the LGBTQ plus community. Ohio is one that does. Texas and North Carolina are two states that do not have those protections in place. And so, when we worked with clients pre-2021, when there were executive orders in protecting our community from the executive branch of the government, we had to have very candid conversations with our members of our community who were purchasing homes, because if you were going to purchase a home in our state by a for sale by owner, there's no code of ethics involved for a realtor, meaning there were no protections on sexual orientation or gender identity. And so, there are still those deep conversations that happen today, especially as we do see some exodus from other states, including my own, and what the protections are and where, how can we, that's the hard part. How can we as real estate agents ensue confidence in even our buyers and our sellers that where we are is safe, and that, how can we put the confidence that we have in them becomes often the challenge. Now, there are allies and advocates in this call. And so I would like to ask both of you, and whichever one of you would like to start first, what do you think is important for agents to know when they're working with members of the LGBTQ plus community? Whoever likes to go first.
One thing I think is seeking first to understand before being understood. We all are different, and we all think different. We all live differently. Don't put us all in a box, because we're not always thinking the same way. And that's been proven time and time and time again. So get to know the clientele and finding out what's really important to them, because they may be private, they may be completely out. They may have a different type of a lifestyle, and you may presume something that completely can be inaccurate, right? So I think the biggest concern would be, am I prejudging a situation that I shouldn't be prejudging? Asking and learning and spending time to understand people, I think, is very important, because we're not all the same.
I like to take my clients to lunch if we're starting the process, and do a whole buyer's presentation at a lunch. But I start that with, tell me about you. What do you want to accomplish? What are your goals? And I just sit and listen. And then we find it out. And if someone is fearful, let's say they're moving in from another state into Northeast Ohio, if someone is fearful about that, we can have that conversation.
Sure.
About what they're trying to accomplish. That's the key to this. Knowing your client, like what Kim said, everyone comes differently. Like if I moved to another city, I wouldn't care that much. But somebody else may come to the city and be fearful because they're not where I am on this. So I need to know that.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. I think that even outside of the LGBTQ plus community, I think that when we talk about any affinity group or aspect of the DEI community, that we have to take an extra step in just ensuring that we are coming from a place of understanding what they're looking for, especially with some of the microaggressions that can occur. Mike, you mentioned lunch. I actually was about to post on my own social media the other day, and maybe people could tell me, but for me and my husband, whenever we go out to lunch, every single time they ask if it's together or separate. And I'm just like, together, and I'm like, I wonder if that's something that people not a part of my community experience all the time, right? And so there's those microaggressions. Same thing as when we say his and her closets, Jack and Jill bathroom. We had a list. I saw a listing with some of our queer clients not too long ago where the bathroom said his and hers was tiled into the shower, right? Like for soap and things like that, right? And so even if we're not working with queer clients, when we're helping our buyers build, helping them be aware of those types of things that could keep their home from selling plays a factor as well. So there's a lot to that when we're talking about working with our community.
You know what, you mentioned that, and I think it's just like it's like working sometimes with minorities. As a Black woman, I mean, obviously I'm always Black. When you're gay, sometimes you don't know what's what, right? But as a Black woman, we deal with people that are relocating here that will choose me because I'm African American, just like we have clients that will choose us because we're out and we're gay, whatever. So we get those questions with African Americans that call and say, hey, can you work with me and make sure that I'm not put into a racist neighborhood? Same thing goes, I think, with a lot of our gay clientele, or that have the fear. But it takes me sitting down and asking good questions, right? So I think it's just, like you were saying, it's so many, as a real estate agent professional, asking good questions is really always the secret to our success, to understand clientele. And so many people have so much trauma, and when you help them relate and understand what their trauma may be, you can really earn their respect, earn their trust, because you really then understand them and how they think, and you can create as much as you can with solutions. But there never is something that we can guarantee safety for all of us. What we can do is help you go and walk the schools and meet the principals and meet the HOA board, all those things to make sure people feel safe by being solution based and asking those good questions
But
and being
not,
open to that.
but
What's that?
not only that, the simple act of listening
Oh, for
makes people
certain.
comfortable. I learned that part when I practiced law. I also did a little divorce law. And when I had a new client, the first meeting, I put a box of puffs on the conference room table and said, I used to say, tell me everything.
What else?
Would listen for a half hour, 40 minutes of everything.
Right.
And then when they were done, I'd say, are you sure you told me everything? Well, by the end of that conversation, these people who were afraid about their lives changing felt so comfortable with me because I now know
Everything.
And when your client knows, you know what their fears are, what their hopes are, what their dreams are, you're then their trustful guide in this whole process. And that's what they want. That's what they need from us. And so I've always done that with clients, and that's always been sort of a little bit of my secret to success.
That's good.
Yeah, well, the world would be such a better place, right? If we all just took an hour and a half to just listen to each other, right?
Right.
You know, we always say on our team that everyone's always right in their own perspective, and it becomes our opportunity to help people change their perspective through those questions and through sitting down with people, alleviating their fears. And I think something that's unique for queer clients specifically is that often we don't have big family in general, right? Because of the trauma that we may experience growing up. And so just being mindful of those experiences, I think that our clients have, or anyone who works with LGBTQ plus community has, just being really sensitive to the things that we've gone through can really, really make a difference for your client's experience.
But when you become their trusted guide, that resolves at least the relationship between you and the client. We still may have problems outside of that, but they know that you're there. They know that they're working in we understand what they need, and we're working in their best interest to accomplish it. I would say that's about as important as anything when you're dealing with our community and our clients from our community.
Absolutely.
Now we all obviously are fortunate enough to work a lot with the members of the Keller Williams Rainbow Network. And we see a lot of the struggles that our members of our community go through at home, you know, in different states with different perspectives. What are some of the struggles that you all see that our community is facing as real estate agents that you think people should know about?
Say that again.
Yeah. What are some of the, I know it's a deep question. So what are some of the struggles of our community as real estate agents, as LGBTQ plus real estate agents, that we are facing that you think that other allies and advocates within the Keller Williams world should know?
Oh, I would say that couples right now are challenged with just making sure that their marriage is going to be protected, and they're buying real estate and concerned just because of politics. I think right now the era of politics is really interfering with many people's psyche, and it's justified, right? We have some scary bills around the country going on, and I think that that's one of our challenges, is just hearing that and having to conquer the fear and get into logic around, regardless, you know, buying real estate is still going to be something that's going to be an appreciating asset, and focusing on the plan, right? And not the problem, because there's a lot of problems that we could get caught up in and focusing and chasing chaos. And so being that advocate that can still focus on making them feel like they are protected on title, right? But I could say that there are many people right now in fear of their marriages not being protected in our area of Texas, as I've heard the feedback. So that would be one.
Yeah, so that's with our colleagues, you know, as well, we're running into, you know, the market has shifted in a lot of places. And, they may have clients leaving those areas, so their business is also suffering as part of that because of the nearly 500 anti-LGBTQ plus laws that were introduced last year. If you don't know that, look it up. They're fun to read. Mike, what would you say?
I would say the challenge is to have that. I mean, Jay Papasan did a article last week about limit your news watching. Just limit it and concentrate on your business. And that's something I've actually had to do. When I was home, I was a 3 hour a night news watcher. I now allow myself a half hour because you can get all wrapped up into that. And if you get wrapped up into that, my guess is you're going to sell less homes. I'm sorry, that's probably my theme of the day, sell more homes. But but then you do have a problem because now you're not making the money that you need to make. And so, yes, everyone's fearful of what will happen if in November. The unknown is horrible. But if we spend too much time on that, our lives become worse. We need to spend more time on, okay, it is horrible, but right now, what are my 36 touches that I'm sending out? What does my lead generation look like? What do we need to do? Because that's the only thing that's going to make my life better right now, because I do not have the ability to control who gets elected president. Well, I have the ability to vote and I will vote, but my life will be better off if I sell more houses. So what do I need to do that? And when I do that, I'm going to make donations and become influential through that in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I would add, if you're an ally or advocate for our community, to add to that, it's like if you're an ally and advocate for our community, find the marginalized people in your world, in the real estate world, and help them be better, right? Give them opportunity. Don't look past them when opportunity arises. Care about Pride Month, act proactively, not reactively. Out of curiosity, what are y'all's market centers doing for Pride Month?
Nothing on our end. Yeah, for like they're very conservative in our office, and I'm not going to say that they're open-minded as far as respecting our LGBT agents in our office, but it's a very conservative office. But when it comes down to support, if I needed anything, as far as mentoring, as far as wealth building, as far as masterminding, all of those factors are there. So it's more of a black and white, just it's business, right? It's not, unfortunately, it's not going to be an office that's going to be decorating for Pride, and it's a tough deal. And I could do it obviously individually in our office and do the things that we do, but as far as our office, the market center is not necessarily going to be one that is going to be focusing on Pride. And so I have to accept that. And if I choose to, or I can go and open up my own brokerage. But I think that that's something that we also deal with real estate in general. I don't care what franchise you're dealing with. I think if anything, if you are in a market center that doesn't support you as an individual versus Pride, what's really important to you, right? Because I think that we're all different, right? And so some of us are not going to be okay with that. And then there will be some that say, you know what, I want to focus on my business. And as long as I have someone who supports me, my partner, my business, and that's in my life, I got to say, Mike Brody has been amazing. He's brought opportunities to me that have created, I'm actually an owner of a title company. And so at the end of the day, we may not have the celebration of Pride in our office, but I could say that when it comes down to opportunities, I have been given opportunities. But now, the word given is not really fair to say. I've earned the right? So that's been a hard pill to swallow for many, in that, you may argue that, but Kim, you're worried about the growth financially, but at the end of the day, your office doesn't celebrate Pride. So you get to choose your pain on whatever that is that's important to you. I want to focus on an area that grows me mentally, grows me financially, and then it's what I do with those finances that make me feel whole, and that's my right as an individual. So everyone is different, but do I feel like we need to make sure that we're giving back to our community? Well, what are you serving and what are you involved in that's raising funds and giving in your community? Because there's a way to find a way to fix pain, right? And so what's your decision of how are you going to handle pain and how do you want to be solution based? What's your battle? How do you want to fight the battle? So I would say that we've come a long way in our office. They support the housing initiative on the green sheet if we choose to be able to donate that way. So I remember the days where they were like, no, we can't do that. That's too much noise. You can't do that here in our office. Well, now we can if we want, right? So it's what's your battle and how do you want to focus on winning the battle? And sometimes it's one step at a time and you have to be okay with that. But if you're not respected and you're disrespected and you don't have that type of support system around you, then that's a different monster. How are we going to battle that monster, right? But that would be my answer to that question about our market center.
In my market center, there's no pride events, but at our team meetings, we've brought it up. I've spoken and we've talked about what that means. And we talked about the Rainbow Network. And we talked about, of course, the LGBT housing initiative. And so that's what we've done in Pride. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a huge thing. I would say that it's a part of our meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, our market center has not done anything for Pride. And I think Kim, I mean, I think like you brought up something kind of interesting, and I think I want to dive a little deeper into that, which is, Pride is 1 month for everyone else. It's every day for us. And so, we live and breathe it every day. And I think that, adding the task and assuming that like I would have to be the one who has to do it can be exhausting. Like we need allies and advocates to be the ones who are taking the step and doing that type of thing, because we have to make money to grow our presence in our market centers, to grow opportunities for ourselves and the rest of our communities. And so it's tough. It's a tough balance because we obviously want to show that we care about our own community. And yet I think sometimes it's like, oh, that shouldn't be our responsibility. I think everyone else should step up and decorate for Pride for us, because it's a time of the year that we should be celebrated for our history and the things that we've gone through. And so, I wouldn't put that burden on queer people in your market centers. I would put that burden on the people who say they care.
Good point. Very good point. Very strong.
And I think our only obligation is to ourselves, our businesses, and to being out representatives for the people who are up and coming and want to see that representation in successful people. The podcast Queer and Successful that I created exists because we can have both identities, and too often or not, we can be queer and successful, and too often or not, they put us in the box of only being one thing, of just being queer people. But we can be queer and successful, and that's where we have to show up every day to prove.
By the way, success is the best revenge to those who would persecute us.
Isn't it? Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And I've had my own struggles, right? Yeah, I had my own struggles in North Carolina with my first market center, and pretty sure I proved them wrong over the last 6 years now, and that is something that everything we go through is an opportunity, good or bad, and it's choosing to see the light through it that allows us as successful people to thrive. Now, obviously, Mike, I do want to touch on the housing initiative, because like as we mentioned before, you created this nonprofit in our mastermind space. Do you want to touch on what that nonprofit is?
Yeah. So can I tell you the story about why it was in my head and why I wanted to do it?
Why?
So about 10 years ago, David and I owned this house on Lake Erie with a beautiful backyard. And the local organization came to us, the Metro Youth Project, and came to us and said, we'd like to do a fundraiser. We heard you have a great backyard to do this in. And I said, okay, let's do that. What's the fundraiser for? And she said it was about elevating homeless youth off the street. And I thought, is this really a big issue? I didn't even know. I had no idea it was a big issue. And so when they told me about it, I said, well, sure. Well, the next day they brought 3 youth who had been helped by this organization to be brought off the street. And we sat on my back porch looking at the lake, drinking lemonade, and they told us their story. And once you hear a young person who's been kicked out of their home, who had to find a place to exist, and through no fault of their own, they were homeless, you never forget that. And it's always been David and my cause, and that's what it is. So we were at a mastermind. Hunter was leading the discussion, and the discussion was, what else can we do? And I said, what we can do is create a nonprofit that helps organizations around the country whose mission is to get the community LGBTQ plus homeless youth off the streets. And not that it was a surprise, but everyone thought that was a great idea. And because it's not a political idea, so no one has different politics on this. No one's going to argue that's not a good thing to get kids off the street. And so we started, and there's people donate by the month. They make a single donation. Some people donate every time they sell a house. And we've been able to raise $400,000 since we started a few years back. We've given out 22 grants to organizations across the country. And the beautiful thing is, I do have the facility here to run all the administrative staff. So my team members, who are my admin staff, love the fact that they also get to administer this program. And so there are no expenses. So 100% of the monies, other than a couple of bank fees here or there, goes directly to organizations for special projects to elevate youth off the streets. And it's been one of the joys of my work that I've been able to participate and get people involved and get people excited about this. Because if you donate $25 every time you sell a house, or $50 or something, it really doesn't change your life. But when we can come together and give $10,000 grants to an organization so they can keep a weekly dinner going where they bring in homeless youth and they talk to them about options for them, if we can continue to sponsor these small projects, because these small projects are the projects that bring 1, 2, 10, 100 youth off the street, I can't think of anything better we can spend our money on.
Yeah. Mike, what's the best way for people to add that type of donation to their green sheet, or get in touch or learn more?
Okay. Well, it's lgbthousinginitiative.com/donate for one. That makes sense. Secondly, I would say if your MCA doesn't know how to put this on their green sheet, just have them call me. I'll take the call so that we can accomplish that. I'm in the book. 440-465-4444. It's my cell phone, and you could call me and I will get that arranged so that somebody can, through each deal, donate whatever it is that you want to donate.
And Mike, may I add something to that? I think that just being a board member of the Housing Initiative, it's been very interesting to see that our agents within Keller Williams have changed their businesses because of this as well. It's given them ability to say thank you to their client that just closed on a house last month, and they send a donation in on behalf of the client to say, hey, Mark and Jim, because of you, we were able to send a donation to the Housing Initiative. And so the Housing Initiative sends those letters out to the clients of our realtors. And so I think it's so classy, super classy. And I have to just say, it's because of Mike's respect that has been earned that really made this actual organization launch, because it was nice to work with someone who's so ethical and such a upstand person. You just don't find good cloth like that, right? So to partner with someone who I can say I absolutely hands down trust he and his partner, David, regardless. And David's really not involved. So, Mike, I have to say, in slowing down today, how important it is to be a leader that's respected, because you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. And I think that part of the organization right now for all of us in the Rainbow Network is to be a leader that walks the walk and not just talks the talk. Because I think at the end of the day, those organizations have issues and ours does not, right? So it's a very, clean operated organization. And I think it comes from, leading from the top, right? The top down. And I think that that's why it's been such a successful journey since I've been a part of it, just because of you and, your team members that you've also been, but you are the reason for that. So I got to say that.
Okay. And you know me well enough to know that I'm totally uncomfortable with those comments.
I know you are, and that's okay. You'll be okay.
I love it. If anybody doesn't know us three, we all love each other very much and respect each other very much. So
I'm thrilled to be in a position to do this. It's one of the joys of my business, without a doubt.
And see, and you know what? And having a business that allows you to live in your dream, right? To see someone be able to do that, because we talk about it at Keller Williams, right? Sometimes when you get to the 7th level and how you're able to live through your actual vision, and you have this vision, and here is giving, that's a part of it that you're getting a chance to do now, not when you're 80 years of age and your money has outlived you, but you're in your dream right now and you're here with a smile, still growing an empire and giving in your empire. What a mentor. So I'm very thankful for you always, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I know I really do appreciate that.
Mike is a great example truly of, success never really ending. Like, we think about success as an end of a journey, and then you think about what comes on after that, and like, you really are thriving every day. So, and
the way I grew my business is Greg and I set out to start a team that people would want to be on over other teams. And we gave as much value as we could, and we gave better splits than everybody else. And Greg and I, our whole position on our team is, if we can help our agents become great realtors, they're not leaving, they're staying. And if our agents succeed beyond their dreams, guess what? We get to succeed beyond our wildest dreams.
True.
So if you're starting a team, it's not about you.
It's not
about you at all. You become a vendor to your agents. And you provide team value services to your agents, and you provide them so well and so much that they never even think about going anywhere else.
That's right.
And that's a similar mission to the Keller Williams Rainbow Network, is that we provide opportunity for LGBTQ plus agents to get opportunity and never want to leave the company that supports them. And Kim, as we wrap up, like, I know you're a part of the Real Estate Alliance as well. Did you want to mention that briefly as we wrap up?
Yeah, I think it's really been nice to see that we have someone who cares about fair housing. And, Keller Williams can only handle so much of fair housing. But to know that we have a board and an actual organization that is the go-to, that's there for the housing symposium in DC to make an impact legally for us. And honestly, as broker, it's for every brokerage, it's, agnostic when it comes down to that. But I think that that's the power of knowing that we have the housing initiative. That's also, being a part of that. So we're all interlinked when it comes down to being together. But to know that you have that organization that is there for us legally also is very fulfilling. And I think that if you're not a member, you may want to look into, I think if we can put that in the link, I know I saw someone on here earlier, type that in for someone to be able to know about, that would be great, because ultimately you can become a member and be active and find a local chapter in your state, in your county, whatever that may look like, that you can be a part of and get involved and learn more about the actual organization. So I think that that would be something for everybody to reach into, to be able to strengthen that, because it's nothing like knowing that a voice is there to fight for us. And that's what, the organization is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, I think, is a perfect way to end this. I think that you've all been given two amazing opportunities between the Real Estate Alliance as well as the Housing Initiative to, if you haven't started yet, in showing up support for our community. Those are two amazing organizations that the Keller Williams Rainbow Network supports highly, and that we would encourage you to start with if you haven't already. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Kim, so
Thank you.
much today. Thank you, everyone. If you need anything or anyone ever has any questions, any of us three, you're happy to reach out to, and we're always happy to
Absolutely.
help. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.